Okay, so today we're doing something a little different. We're jumping into a text that takes what is probably the most famous play in English and just completely tears it apart.
Yeah, we're talking about Binkeo and Juliet from Andy Meyer's The Recreations.
And reading it, it felt less like a classic play and more like, I don't know, watching a train wreck that somehow fixes itself by the end.
That's a great way to put it. This is definitely not the Verona you remember from high school. Meyer is using like a aggressive satire to deconstruct the whole idea of capital T tragedy.
And you see it right from the start. You've got the Montagues and the Capulets, but the text says the reason for their feud is, and I'm quoting, not remembered.
Right. They just do it because they feel like they're supposed to. It immediately frames the whole conflict as, just performative.
Which sets the stage for the characters, who are also just performing. Take Binkeo, our Romeo figure.
Oh, Binkeo. He's not some dashing hero. The source material paints him as this guy who just wears black, hums show tunes.
Specifically, the theme to Route 66, which is such a bizarrely perfect choice.
It is. And his whole romantic playbook, it's not from sonnets. He's taking his cues from the movie Master Ninja 2.
When in doubt, kiss her.
That's the one. It's just so wonderfully dumb.
And then you have Juliet, who is like the only sane person in the entire city.
She really is. Meyer completely flips her character. Instead of swooning, she's sarcastic, she's pragmatic.
There's that scene where Binkeo is trying to be all poetic and she just shuts him down. She basically tells him, that's the stupidest line yet.
Which is where it starts to get really interesting, because it feels like the characters almost know they're in a bad play.
Yes, the meta-commentary. Mercutio gets stabbed, and his dying words aren't some big curse, he's just annoyed. And Tybalt is literally yelling at Binkeo for stealing his lines.
It's constantly breaking that fourth wall. Meyer's pointing out how artificial it all is. And if the characters know the dialogue is bad, it makes it really hard for you, the audience, to take the stakes seriously.
This all kind of comes to a head with the friar, or Jack, I should say.
Right, the friar, who isn't a priest at all. He's a notary public.
Just a bureaucrat. So when we get to that big plan to fake Juliet's death, there's no mystical potion.
Nope. Jack just hands her a bottle of NyQuil.
Over-the-counter cold medicine.
He literally says she'll be on a 24-hour M tour. It just sucks all the drama and mystique right out of the scene.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this is where the text moves from being just a parody to making a real argument. We all know how the story is supposed to end.
Double suicide, tragic memorials, all of it. But Meyer just refuses to go there. Binkeo goes to get his poison.
And it turns out to be a package of TUMS.
And he can't even get it open because the safety seal is broken. It's completely absurd.
So it stops the suicide. He gets to the tomb. Jack, the notary, is already there, and Juliet just wakes up.
The NyQuil wears off. That's it.
And this is where the author basically pauses the whole story to talk to you directly, right? I think the phrase that stuck with me was fetid dingo kidneys.
It's a memorable one. The text just flat out says that the traditional tragic ending is a load of fetid dingo kidneys. It argues there is absolutely nothing romantic about suicide or people being unable to, deal with their emotions.
So instead of a big tragic finale, they just talk.
They just go home and talk to their parents. The text says the families eventually reach a state of barely tolerating each other, and Binkeo and Juliet live happily ever after.
It's so shockingly practical. It implies the only reason Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy is because nobody used an ounce of common sense.
And that's the whole point, I think. Meyer's saying that what we call high art or romance is often just a story about an avoidable disaster. A happy ending is just what happens when people actually communicate.
It really forces you to look at these classic stories differently. Why die for love when you can just wait for the NyQuil to wear off and have an awkward chat with your dad?
Exactly. And it leaves you with a pretty interesting question to think about. Does a story really need a body count to be profound? Or is writing a convincing, practical, happy ending actually the harder thing to do?
Something to consider the next time you're struggling with a safety seal. And that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening.